Hey everybody, welcome back to the Live Free Miami podcast. I'm your host, John Kelly, and today we're here with Carla Martins of Raw Chef Carla. Carla, how are you today?
Doing amazing. How are you?
I am also doing amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And I think that everybody's going to really enjoy this episode because Carla has a ton of information on how to eat right, live a healthy lifestyle, and be happy as an entrepreneur. So Carla, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started as a raw chef?
Sure. So I guess I was influenced by just my upbringing in general. My mom's a nutritionist. I always ate healthier than everyone I knew. And I was born and raised in Brazil in a restaurant. And when we moved to the States in 2004, I was just shocked at the standard American diet and how people were unhealthy and heavier than what I had ever seen in Brazil. And at the time, my mom was actually going through a time of depression, and she found a lecture about raw foods. And she decided to check it out. So she went on a retreat in Atlanta, Georgia for 10 days. And she came back and she's like, it's the first time in 3 years I don't feel like crying. So she was eating a raw vegan diet, learning about it. And then she started, just kind of gently pushing me to test it out.
Leading by example, basically.
Yeah. No, really pushing me.
Oh, really? Do this.
So she came to visit. I was in California at the time. She came to visit for Christmas, and she made a whole bunch of recipes, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, because at the time I had no idea. This was 2007. I had no idea what raw foods were. It wasn't very popular.
What are raw foods, actually?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically it's plant-based, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, mushrooms, seaweed, nothing that has been heated above 118 degrees to preserve all the enzymes and the nutrients in the food.
Okay.
So she came to my house. She made a whole bunch of really creative dishes with weird ingredients. And I'm looking at it like, ew, that looks disgusting. And I loved everything. So I decided to try it out. And at the time, I just wanted to lose some weight. Typical girl. I just wanted to go on a diet, lose 2 or 10 pounds. And I decided to do it for a week. Now I think it's funny because you go on a diet for a week and then what, right? You go back to your habits and then you go back to...
Yeah, that's the problem with diets.
Exactly.
Is that they're temporary. I mean, what's the use of using temporary solutions for long-term problems?
Correct. But, I was 20 years old and that's what I had in mind. So I decided to try raw foods for a week with all the books my mom had given me for Christmas. And I had no idea what I was doing. I never needed really to cook in my life because I was raised at a restaurant, but I loved it. I felt so amazing. My energy went up. I was sleeping better. I did lose some weight, but that wasn't even my focus anymore. I was just focusing on feeling good. So I started incorporating that more and more into my diet. And eventually I went back to Brazil to study architecture, which was my lifelong dream.
Very cool.
And while I was in school, everybody was asking me about how I ate because it was different. People didn't know about it. 2010 at this point.
The internet was not even that big of a deal.
No, there weren't many YouTube videos on the topic. It was still very new, especially in Brazil. Nobody knew about it. So my friends started to notice that I never ate in public. And I was very strict at the time with my diet. And they were curious about what I ate. I always had a Tupperware with food. Eventually, I decided to share. I was afraid of sharing because I didn't want to be judged.
People judge you.
Yeah, and I didn't want to be attacked like I had been by my family. Like, oh, you're going to get sick. And in my mind, it's like, oh, yeah, all those fruits and vegetables are going to make me sick. So I just didn't talk about it. I did my own thing, and that was it. And then when I shared, I realized that people were really curious and interested. And that's how I started a business. I started selling snacks for my classmates while in architecture school.
Yeah, very cool. It's interesting how life leads you to certain things.
Sure.
How you wanted to be an architect, but the universe was just sending you messages that your mission might be to help people through nutrition.
Very true. And my whole life I said I never want to work with food. I hated when I was a kid, I really didn't like being raised at a restaurant and being at the restaurant all the time and smelling like food all the time. Good thing about raw foods is that you don't smell like food.
Yeah,
But
true.
but I just think it's kind of funny how it works. But I became really passionate because I was taking my knowledge for granted. And I was just so passionate about what I was doing that when people started asking, for me, everything made sense. And I realized that it wasn't common sense to people.
Right.
So eventually
Especially in Brazil. I mean,
yeah.
meat is big in Brazil, right?
Yeah, and I'm from the south of Brazil and people barbecue on a daily basis. It's crazy. But it's growing. Plant-based foods are more available
Oh,
nowadays, which is
huge.
amazing. And I was surprised to see that people were more open. And for me, it's not even about being all or nothing. And that's something that I
Correct.
really like to talk about. I'm not the preachy vegan I like to encourage people to eat healthier.
Right.
Everybody can benefit from adding more raw foods to their diet, regardless of what else they eat. They
Yeah.
don't need a label for it.
Yeah.
I don't label myself anymore.
You shouldn't.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the whole reason that I wanted to have you on, because I'm not a vegan, but I know there's benefits to it, and I need to learn more about nutrition when it comes to raw foods and vegan foods, and being able to incorporate some of that stuff into my lifestyle. And the listeners, I'm sure, are the same way. They shouldn't be pegging themselves as one way or another. When it comes to information, you should always take what is useful to you and throw the rest out. Because if you have like a closed mind and you're like, I'm a vegan or I'm a carnivore and I'm this and I'm that, then if your mind is closed, you can't entertain any new ideas. You need to have an open mind to continue to evolve and continue to learn. It might not be exactly right for you, but you can learn something from it if you're not stuck in your dogmatic beliefs.
For sure. I totally agree with that. And that's a problem that I see with society, is that if you say vegan, people cringe. Or if they see something that's green, like I drink green smoothies and I carry them around in mason jars and people are already making faces. And it doesn't need to be nasty just because it's green, but people have that, notion that it doesn't taste good. They already like their walls go up when you
Right.
talk about vegan food.
Yeah.
So I think you need to be very cautious with the approach. When I bring food to parties, I always say if I'm going to eat weird, I need to make it pretty. So
Yeah.
I always make my food very pretty and I bring it to parties. I don't say anything. I just like, oh, just try it. What's in it? Oh, just things and stuff. And I try to avoid the conversation until
Misconceptions.
after they try it.
Yeah.
And I love it when people ask me if my cheesecake has condensed milk, for example. I'm like, nope. And it makes me happy to
Now
see
you
that.
get them thinking.
Correct. So people like open up, So I've been very blessed, and I feel like that was my gift, and I fell into it really, because I see that I've planted a lot of seeds with people. So even when I was in
Pun
architecture
intended.
school, yeah, when I was in architecture school, I thought it was really cool to see all of my classmates who are way younger than me. They started carrying around their green juices, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. In the beginning they are afraid of it, and now they think it's trendy. So people start doing it.
Yeah. And it's smart because you're getting a lot of nutrients.
Yep.
And that's one thing that people don't think about, and you kind of touched on this a little earlier with the standard American diet, is the lack of nutrients in the standard American diet. Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit on what problems you have with the standard American diet and why you think it can be improved?
Sure. So I feel like most or almost everything is heavily processed, and when you're processing food, you're stripping all the nutrients. We should be eating foods that come from nature, just as nature intended us to have it. And that's the whole idea behind raw foods. You're eating as clean as possible, as fresh as possible, variety, locally produced if you can, and seasonal, because that's when you have the highest nutrients in the food. And I feel like we became a society that only thinks about being practical and fast and easy, and we grab everything from a shelf without knowing what's in it. And there's so many ingredients. Like, you start reading labels. That was one thing. It was like a main thing that I learned when I became raw, is to read the labels and to find out what's in your food. And then to know that I can make a cracker with 5 ingredients and then read the label and there's like 37 ingredients and things that I cannot even pronounce. That's not good for me. That's not real food.
Yeah, that's the common sense you were talking about.
Correct.
A lot of times we're just so used to things being approved by the FDA, we're like, okay, if it's in the store, it must be healthy. But we don't know where, say, a cracker, that wheat or that corn was grown. It could have been grown conventionally. Most likely it was, if it's a processed food, which is full of synthetic fertilizers.
Yep.
Which, if you look at synthetic fertilizers like Roundup, they have something in it called glyphosate. And glyphosate has actually been shown to be a carcinogen and cause cancer.
Yes.
Not to mention disrupt your reproductive system, disrupt your endocrine system, and disrupt your nervous system. And you wonder why people have ADHD. You wonder why women have trouble conceiving. Men are losing testosterone at a much faster rate than they did in the past. And then nobody wants to look at the thing you do the most, which is food.
Yeah.
We eat all day, every day. And like you said, if you strip the food of nutrients, then you're going to have to eat more food.
Correct.
And our food now is hyper palpable. So you love the taste of it. But if it doesn't have nutrients, you're going to eat too much of it. And then you wonder why we have a 40% obesity rate.
Yep. And it's addictive too because of everything that, like, it's produced to make you addicted to it. So people, their taste buds are just so numb that they don't even understand what real food tastes like. And that's why it's so hard to go back to basics. And it's so hard for people to start changing their diet. Not only the habits, the mindset, but physiologically speaking, their taste buds are so addicted to all the fat, the salt, the sugars, that when they eat something that doesn't have that, they don't like it. People, I made my grandmother once raw vegan apple pie, and she's putting sugar on it because it wasn't sweet enough. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
That's the classic example.
That's a typical example. She doesn't think apples and dates and raisins are sweet enough.
Yeah, and it's funny too, if you do some kind of low sugar, low carb diet for a little while, like me right now, after I went camping this weekend, I had a lot of sugar. And I told my wife and I told my daughter, I was like, look, guys, I'm going to stop eating sugar for a little while. I suggest you do too. And what I noticed after a couple days is now fruit tastes way better.
Of course.
Before I could, I would taste it, but it wasn't like, wow, this is so sweet. Now, since I haven't eaten carbs since Sunday, if I eat a piece of fruit or something, it tastes much sweeter and my taste buds begin to slowly get back to where they were.
Yeah.
And where they should be.
And it's so fast too. You don't need a lot of time, but you need discipline and you need willpower, which is not easy.
No, because it's easier to just pull over and
correct.
grab some fast food.
That's how we're trained, right? So it takes a lot to actually go to the kitchen and make your food. And that's why I started my business. So I wanted to prove to people that it doesn't need to be complicated, it doesn't need to be expensive, it doesn't need to be hard, and it can still be delicious.
So your business, tell us a little bit about your business. What exactly is your business? I know you're a raw chef, but how do you provide meals and help for people?
So currently I meal prep for clients and I deliver once a week.
Nice.
I do a little bit of everything. I love teaching. That's my passion. So I teach clients privately. I used to teach at Plant Miami in Wynwood.
Yes.
We have a beautiful culinary school, and I just love it. I love being able to show people and just wow them, how to make new things. So using different ingredients, clean ingredients. And so now I just go to people's house and we just make a whole bunch of food. And it's a lot of fun. I love it.
So you have two sides of your business.
Yeah.
The first side is you fish for them. You make the meals, you provide it for them, and then you teach them how to fish.
Correct.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't have the time. They're busy entrepreneurs, or they spend a lot of money buying food and they end up throwing it out because they don't have time to cook. So I love it. It's fun for me, and I can provide a variety of dishes, that they wouldn't necessarily want to cook at home because they're gourmet food.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at most people, they work 8 hours a day, right? They usually have kids. They got to take care of. They got to drive them, pick them up, etc. Then you got to exercise, right? I think everybody kind of gets the idea that exercise is important now, and a lot of people are prioritizing it. And it takes time though. So if you work from 9 to 5, you get up at 7, take your kids to school at 8, work from 9 to 5, get home, go to the gym, You're home at 7 p.m. That's a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to cook at that time.
No.
No. And what happens is, like you said, you end up, because I used to do this, you buy a bunch of groceries with every intention, organic, every intention to make a good meal. Monday, you might do it because you're motivated.
Yeah.
Tuesday, you're tired, and you and your significant other look at each other and you're like, are you cooking? Are you
No,
cooking?
yeah.
Let's just get this.
Yeah.
So now you have groceries that are sitting in your fridge that were expensive, you bought, going bad,
Yeah.
and you're spending more money eating out. If you look at your bank statement over the month and you add up all the times you ate out and all the times you went grocery shopping, I can guarantee you that number is going to be significantly more than what you would charge somebody to make meals for them.
Oh, for sure. For
But
sure.
people don't look at it like that. They look at it as another expense. But what also they're saving is what? What else are they saving? Time.
And health.
Yeah, they're investing in health because you're not really spending at that point, you're investing. And you're saving time, which is a resource that you can't renew.
Yeah, and I feel like we should all be doing what we love, and the more, which this is another part, I guess, that of my life that really came together. I feel so grateful that now I can work with this 100%, and I love it. I'm so passionate about my business, and I feel like everybody should be doing it because we can just serve the world better if we are in alignment.
Correct.
If you're elevated, like I'm happy when I'm in the kitchen cooking meals.
Right.
It can be stressful, it can be tiring, it can be long days, but I do it with love. And I noticed, because I've had jobs that it was just for the money, and then you go in and you feel miserable, and that's not a way to live either.
No.
So, delegating someone else the things that you don't like to do is also amazing, because in quality of life, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that we touch on this a lot in the podcast, and I'm so glad that you're bringing this back up, because so many people are programmed to work for money instead of working to be happy.
Yes.
You don't need that much money, but when you find a passion, you'll make more money because you'll work harder. If you're building somebody else's dream, you cannot build your own.
Yeah.
That person is reaping benefits from your life energy. Why not bet on yourself and make it so that the energy that you put out goes to yourself instead of somebody else's business?
Very true.
How has becoming an entrepreneur and finding a passion to cook and help people change your life as opposed to like when you were working for somebody?
Freedom. I just feel so free. And of course, it's the ups and downs, and it's scary sometimes, it. But it's just amazing to feel free and to be able to do what I love, really, because I'm just happy. Even if I have an off day, also with all the practices that I do too, they help me elevate me. But, eating this way, I notice that I am happier as is. But just being able to provide, I feel like I'm in service.
So you said eating the way that you eat provides you with something that allows you to be free. What are some other practices that you touched on that also contribute to your health and, in essence, your freedom?
So I exercise daily. I move. Let's put it that way. I move daily, and I also meditate. And I feel like that's huge in my days, and it's something it has become a non-negotiable now. And if I slack, I notice the difference. Like yesterday, so back in the day, I used to meditate like 15, 20 minutes, and I thought that was great. And then a 45-minute meditation was very long. And then after the retreat that we did, after sitting for 4 hours in a meditation, I've been meditating for 55 to 75 minutes every day. And the other day, I thought it was funny. I'm like, I don't have a lot of time, so I'll just do a short one, 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing how because of the experience you had at the retreat, now your whole mind frame about meditation has shifted.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people on here like to meditate or want to meditate, but they run into certain roadblocks maybe that they think, I've heard this a lot, I can't meditate.
Yeah.
Can you give some people some tips on how you become better at meditation and how you look at it so that it's not so much of a challenge, but it's something that you enjoy?
Sure. So I feel like meditation really is a practice. It's not something that you're good at or bad at. It's a practice. And it's just like eating healthy or exercising. Some days you're going to have good days, some days not so much. But you can't just stay there, you just move on and you try it again. So I started with a timer. There are meditation apps and you can start with a timer and you just sit there and you can focus on your breath. I feel like that's how I started. Actually, my mom was kind of cool and she got me on a meditation class when I was 13, I think. So I've been meditating for a while.
Your mom sounds super cool. We're going to have her on the podcast next.
Yeah, she was always very woo-woo, and I love it.
Ahead of her time, maybe?
Yeah, and she used to say, everything is energy, and I would roll my eyes, and now I'm like, everything is energy.
Now people are rolling their eyes at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like sitting and just focusing on your breath is a huge thing. Thoughts are going to come, but somebody said something to me once that really resonated. It's like, think about yourself as the sky and your thoughts as the clouds, and they're just passing by.
That is good. Yeah, I have trouble too sometimes because when I sit down and I begin to meditate, I instantly start thinking about all the things that I want to do.
Yep.
And to be honest, I think that's a productive form of meditation because I kind of align everything and I get dialed in, but that's only one form of meditation. Yeah. I also sometimes like to disconnect from what I have to do. Mm-hmm. So when I have a thought about, oh, you know what? I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I go, that's the future. Come back to the present. Or I think about, damn, I wish I would have spent more time with my mom before she passed away. That's the past. Come back to the present. Yeah. So then what I'll do in order to eliminate that process is, like you said, focus on my breath. Mm-hmm. I'll just think about the air coming through my nose, coming into my lungs, and then I'll hold it for like a 5 count, and then I'll release it for an 8 count. Yeah. And that's like 10 to 12 seconds. If you do that 5 or 6 times, a minute has gone by. Yeah. So if you just count your breath and you do 30 of those, right there, you've done 5 or 6 minutes.
Counting is great because it gives you something to do.
Right.
Like that monkey in your head, it gives it something to do. Right. So I think counting is great. I also like guided meditations.
Preach.
So now I've been doing a lot of Joe Dispenza's meditations just because they're
on another level.
Yeah, they're on really another level. So I've been doing those, and it's not every day that I want to sit for 75 minutes. No. But 2 things that he said on the retreat that I thought it was great. It's, one, there's no bad meditation. Just the fact that you're sitting there, something's happening to your body because you are slowing down, you are breathing, you are just...
telling your body you're safe.
You're calming down, like you're not as stressed, right? So for me, that's what it is because I'm so hectic. I always have things to do and I'm always thinking about what's next and clients and cakes I need to make and whatever it is. And just sitting down is just... it's calming. And I notice that even if I have a busy day in the kitchen and I'm out of alignment, I'll go and I'll sit for 20 minutes. Yeah. And then I get back and everything flows.
And like you said earlier, it's a practice and it works better when it's proactive. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want to get to the point where you're like, I have to meditate. Yeah. Because now you've been in a stressful state too long. And what people don't realize is that spending too much time in a stressful state not only is bad for you in the moment, but it leads to disease down the line.
Correct.
It's signaling your genes to turn on specific transmitters, specific hormones, which throw you out of balance because you spent too much time there. And now if you spend too much time there, 10, 15 years being stressed out, now you get cancer. Now you get diabetes. Yeah. Now you get heart disease. And it's not an overnight thing. These are things that build up over time, and stress is cumulative, so it builds up. If you don't relieve it, it will continue to build. And I think our society, #hustle, #grind, #team no sleep, has led people to disease.
For sure.
And hustling and grinding is important if there is a specific time for recovery.
Yeah, but I feel like we're not taught, or we don't always think about the fact that if we do things the right way or in a better way and we spend time building those good habits, everything else just follows and flows. And that's how I feel with my days. Yesterday, I woke up a little later, so I didn't meditate, and I did my meditation at night. And my day was hectic. And the whole day, I'm like, oh, I'm having a bad day because I didn't meditate.
Right. Yeah.
But I noticed the difference, you know? So it's just like making time. And for me, it's the same with the food. If I make time to make my green juice, to make my green smoothies, to eat my vegetables, to eat my fruits, whatever it is, I notice how much better I feel and how much more energy I have to do all the other things that need to get done. So if people say that they don't have time, it's like, well, you prioritize what's important, you make time for that, and then you will have more time and energy to do everything else that you need to do.
Yeah, if you don't make time for health, you make time for illness.
Yep.
You're always making time.
Yeah,
it depends on what you
choice.
want to make time for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole mission of my whole mission is to teach people to make health the first and most important thing. And that's not just exercise. That's nutrition, that's meditation, that's sleep. Those are the things you prioritize. And like you said, the universe will align to you. It's like when you drop a pebble in the water, the ripple effects.
Yeah.
So your health is that pebble, and it creates ripple effects throughout your life. I'm very similar to you, where I found something that I was passionate about when it came to exercise, health, nutrition. My wife is also a chef. We also have a company similar to yours. And these things, once we focused on our own health, our own emotional, mental, spiritual health, the universe has brought us so much. So instead of always trying to change the world, change yourself, and the world will change along with it.
Completely. And that's why I never preach about what I'm doing. I just lead by example. And I feel like it makes such a difference because people come to me, they ask me, why are you so happy? And they want to know what I'm doing. And that's, my chance to plant a seed and to talk about what I'm doing. And then I influence people, and I love it. It's really cool to see how much it's grown from that just by me doing it myself.
Yeah. It's amazing that, setting an example and being a leader is the only way to change the world. Yeah. Everybody's like, Biden, Trump, why not look at yourself? Look at yourself. You're like, oh, Trump, I'll give you an example. Trump is bad for the environment. He destroys all regulations, but you're driving a car.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, how can you throw a stone if you're not the one who's embodying it?
Because it's easier, right? It's easier to just blame other people. And I feel like we need to learn how to take radical responsibility over our own actions.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah,
I've been
everything.
struggling with a word to put in front of responsibility. Every time, like if you look at the description of this podcast, it's basically, it says becoming the best version of yourself through prioritizing your health and taking personal development. And then I'm like, well, I can't say personal responsibility again, but now I can put radical responsibility. So thank you for that, by the way. And what is radical responsibility other than no longer playing the victim, but taking complete ownership of everything in your life? The reason that you're sitting right here at 2:00 in the afternoon is because of everything that you've done in your life. Yes. The reason that somebody else is stuck at work is because of everything they've done in their life. If you're overweight or if you're sick, it's your responsibility. Yeah. How you respond to stimulus in life is going to determine your quality of life. So if you're responding negatively, then you're going to get negative results. But if you're saying, hey, you know what? I'm the one that's at fault for this. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to change the way I eat. I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to listen to John and Carla and meditate today. Yeah. I'm going to spend 5 minutes breathing, and I'm going to see how it changes my life. The other day, I'm working with a brand new client, and you know what the hardest part of the workout was? When I told him to sit down and do nothing for 5 minutes. The workout was hard, right? But he said he couldn't not move. He couldn't not want to look at his phone. He couldn't just sit there and breathe.
Wow.
That says a lot about our society.
Yeah.
That it's harder for us to sit there and do nothing than it is to be busy and frantic.
Yeah.
And then the busier you are, the less productive you are.
But we need to choose the busy, right?
Correct.
Choose what you make yourself busy with. Like, choose what you're listening to, what you're watching. Like, I don't watch the news.
No.
Like, that drops my energy levels.
100%.
I'm in fear and I'm just angry at what's happening in the world. And yeah, granted, it's important to be informed. I really choose what I listen to. So podcast interviews or audiobooks, music, whatever elevates my energy.
Yeah, you're the one programming yourself.
Correct. Because I realized how much better I can show up for others when I'm taking care of myself.
Correct.
So we all need to make ourselves a priority, and it's not something selfish.
Are you trying to change the world? Because you sound like you're trying to change the world.
Maybe.
Because if people actually listen to what we're talking about, the world will be a different place.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. So I think that we need to go through our quick answer questions, our rapid fire questions. But before we get to that, I want to know what is one book that's really changed your worldview and you've bought for other people and you've recommended to other people, something that just really rocked your world.
Ooh, I love reading, so there are so many.
So give us a couple.
I guess when I was a kid, my mom gave me a book called Pollyanna, and it's about this little girl who sees the good in everything. And now that I'm an adult and I am that person, I think it's so incredible that I read that book when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I read it over and over and over again. So I really like that. You know, she was just she had a really tough life, but she would play the glad game, which is finding something good to be glad about in every situation.
Wow.
And it's a cute story. The Desire Map by Danielle Laporte. That was one, I guess, that kind of ignited my personal growth and breaking the habit of being yourself. Joe Dispenza.
Nice.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, I'm reading that right now. I'm on like page 5.
It's a long one.
Yeah. I'm like, I just did this seminar. I know this already, but I know I got to read it.
But
again.
It's a good reminder.
Of course.
It's so much.
Of course.
It's too much information, but it's very motivational.
Even with like exercise and nutrition, I've been doing it for 20 years. The more I read, the better I am.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as you take your eye off the prize, you start straying, you know?
Yeah,
you start getting programmed by other things. It's like you said before, you have to continue to program yourself. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll be programmed by somebody else.
And it's really easy to just fall back into the old habits, right? Or society or whatever. So it's like, no, radical responsibility. Right. Choose whatever.
And then distractions too.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is for me not to grab my phone first thing in the morning? I have to think, okay, don't look at your phone first thing in the morning. Spend a half hour not going back into that world. You know, spend a half hour being around your family, enjoying what's going on.
Do not disturb. That's a good one. My phone is in do not disturb mode, and all my apps go silent until 9 a.m.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. I didn't even know that existed. I was just throwing my phone on top of my roof and having to climb up and get it. So we like to do a little thing called rapid fire.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to ask me a question, and we're going to answer.
Okay,
Sound
let's
good?
do it. Yes.
All right. First one. Oh, God.
Oh, God.
What is the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
The weirdest thing I've ever eaten? Oh, my gosh. I eat all fruits and vegetables, and it's been so long, so I don't think I've eaten, like, really weird stuff.
Have you ever eaten a bug?
No.
No? Well, that's about as raw as you get.
No, I can't.
And they have really good protein, by the way.
I've been eating mostly a raw vegan diet since 2008. It's been almost 13 years. So I guess for people, all the greens that I eat.
Is there any weird fruits that you ate?
Weird fruits?
Yeah.
North of Brazil has cool, weird fruits. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, nothing weird. Okay,
nothing like super weird, no.
All right. I've eaten crickets before, so I'll take this one. Yeah, they were good too, and they're high in protein. So
no, thank you.
Caveman.
All right. What weird food combinations do you really enjoy?
Weird food combinations. Let's see. I like hot sauce on my eggs. I don't know if that's weird or not.
I don't know.
No, that's pretty basic.
I guess that's pretty basic. Sorry.
I don't know. I think we might have to cut this question out. I'm not even sure I have a weird combination.
I know this one for me.
Tell me.
So I've made banana lettuce tacos with almond butter.
Wow.
And some cacao nibs on top. I know everybody thinks it's weird. It's really good.
Well, I mean, if you put cacao nips on anything, I'll eat it.
That's true.
So
it's good.
You had me at cacao. Next question. What would be the worst ingredients to fill a burrito with? I think I already know the answer that you're going to tell me.
Yeah.
They're already full of bad ingredients, right?
Well, not Not necessarily, but
No?
in my opinion, anything processed in there, or eggs that we don't know where it comes from, or all the meat with all the hormones and antibiotics, and like just the bad energy too, because that's
for
something.
sure. Slaughterhouse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's pretty bad.
Yeah, my goal is to one day
Cheese.
be able to hunt my own meat.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, that should be the way to do it.
That should be the way to do
You
it, because
want
that's the
happy
healthiest kind.
animals,
And then you're not separated from the sacrifice, because you're killing it.
Yeah.
You got to feel that, because when you get a steak on your plate, you don't feel the sacrifice.
Well, you don't. I don't feel like you realize that it's an animal. I didn't when I was a kid.
Right.
You know, and then when I was like 7, my mom decided to kill a chicken in front of me, and I refused to eat. But growing up, I would just, it's meat. It's just another
it's just
food
there.
item,
Right.
But no, I can't. If I had to kill it, I wouldn't do it. So I'm just vegan by
Yeah,
default.
that helps you to be raw.
Right. Serious question. Do you count your steps?
Do I count my steps?
Yeah.
I have in the past. I do not count my steps right now. I need to do better. I haven't been as good as I should. I have been riding the bike for 20 minutes, like just to get my heart moving. But since I've injured my hip, I did a bunch of steps when I was camping. I have a torn labrum in my hip, so walking, running, squatting, all those things cause me pain at night, which disrupt my sleep. And then that disrupts everything else. So now I just do things that keep me as pain-free as possible. And walking is one of them. So I need to walk a little bit more.
You need to Joe Dispenza that pain out of your
I
body.
do. I've been trying. I haven't been doing a good job. I haven't been raising my energy enough. What is something you like that most people don't?
Something I like that most people don't.
Vegetables?
Vegetables for sure. Is it food related?
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
Dandelion. Do you know you
Dandelion.
can eat dandelion leaves?
I had no idea.
It's a really bitter green. I love it. But people think it's a weed and they just pluck it out. But
Yeah.
it's really good for your liver.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's another thing. What does Hippocrates say? Make your food your medicine and your medicine your food. People don't realize how many different enzymes and nutrients are in different foods and how they work together when they're organic and natural to create a better environment in your body.
For sure.
And nature has everything that you need.
Yeah. And then people here are worried that I'm not getting enough protein when in reality there's a lot more than protein that we need to get.
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
People who are against being vegan always cite that you're not getting enough protein. And I know that protein deficiencies are a real thing. So how does somebody who's a raw vegan kind of navigate eating enough protein?
So basically every protein is made out of amino acids and everything has amino acids. So if you're getting enough calories for your body needs, you're going to get enough protein. If you're eating a varied diet, like just get plenty of different things and you will get enough protein.
Yeah,
Fruits and vegetables will have amino acids, plenty of amino acids that will fulfill that.
But if people are, say, not eating enough variety, could that lead to them not getting the right amino acids? Or
It could.
Yeah.
It could. But it's not, honestly, it's really not that hard to get a lot of protein in a vegan diet. I know there's that misconception, but it's mainly because we're not looking at everything individually. I'm currently going through a raw food nutrition course, and they show, a few weeks ago, they had graphs with all the amino acids from different leafy greens and different fruits, so you really can get anything and everything from it.
And something that I read recently is that protein utilization is also different for all kinds of foods. And like one of the things that was alarming to me was that protein powder, most of them weigh, you're only absorbing 17% of that protein. So if you're eating 100 grams, you're only getting 17.
Yeah.
So what we really need to start looking at is not just how much protein is in a food, but how much do you utilize?
Yeah.
Right?
And we don't need that much protein either, unless you are an athlete and your body demands more of that. But in general, we don't need 200 grams of protein a day. We can get by with 50, 70 grams of protein a day, like a normal person.
Yeah, and that's what people got to understand too. It all depends on your goals.
Of course.
Your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a football player or a mixed martial artist or something where
it's
you're
very
you're
different.
you're breaking down a lot of muscle all the time, then you might need more protein. But if you're somebody that doesn't really exercise that much and you're thinking that you need to eat a ton of meat, then you probably need to eat less meat and maybe eat more vegetables.
Oh, everybody could eat more vegetables.
For sure. Maybe not you.
Maybe not me. Maybe I could benefit from it too.
Yeah. I know I only eat vegetables at dinner pretty much.
Ooh.
Yeah.
No
So, like, I
green
have
smoothies for you in
eggs.
the morning?
No green smoothies. Yeah, I
Then you're
got
probably lacking fiber as well,
yeah,
which is a big part of it.
big part of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're all learning and we're all growing, we're all
course.
evolving, and it's like one of the things that I noticed that I need to be better at is eating more vegetables, because I eat them every day, but I probably don't eat enough every day.
Oh.
Yeah.
This course was recommending eating a couple pounds of leafy green vegetables a day. That's a lot of chewing.
That's a lot of chewing. And that's a
That's-
lot of fiber.
Yeah, that's why I blend them or I do some juicing.
That's smart.
Yeah, so when you juice, you're bypassing digestion basically, and you're just absorbing all the nutrients immediately
Yeah,
within a
that's
few
one of the
minutes.
problems I have with eating more vegetables is I get gassy.
Oh,
And nobody wants gassy.
Nope.
You know? My wife doesn't like gassy.
Then you're probably just having some microbiome imbalance.
Boom. You know who's coming on the podcast next?
Who?
A gut doctor.
Nice.
Nice lead-in.
I love it.
Yeah, it's all connected, right?
Of course.
Man, if you don't have a good gut microbiome, then you're not going to be able to process foods. You're not going to be
No.
able to absorb nutrients.
And people who have a lot of inflammation, that's why it's also hard for them to go into a higher vegetable diet, because they're not breaking it down. Their digestive process is just like so shut that they won't be able to digest it.
Yeah.
So they need to increase their microbiome balance.
And who doesn't have high levels of inflammation right now?
Oh yeah, with all this stress and everything that we're going through, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, we talked about this off camera a little bit, how the news, which we talked about garbage in, garbage out,
Yeah.
focuses solely on negative aspects of everything. Imagine if the news told you, guess what, guys? If you fix your gut microbiome, you eat more vegetables, you exercise, and you meditate, you'll be able to survive pretty much anything. How many people would do it? How many people would feel motivated to do it instead of just saying, this many people are dying. This is what you have to do.
Oh, for sure.
Lockstep. We want you doing this, and that. We don't want you taking care of your health, but we want you avoiding things. And you can't, humans are social animals. You can't avoid connecting with people, because then you're going to have other issues.
Oh, for sure. And so many people do. And I feel like what we're going through right now, so many people with depression, anxiety, suicide rates have gone up too. We need the human connection.
In
Very
order to
true.
keep our connection, we got to meditate.
Yeah.
We got to eat right. We got to exercise.
Everything ties together.
Right, exactly. And then that's what I really want people to understand, is that we're not doing this just because we think that one way is the best way. We're doing
No.
this because we understand that health is holistic in nature, and that you need multiple pillars in order to be
For
in
sure.
balance, so that you can have a nice quality of life and you can lead by example and help other people identify that they can also have a nice quality of
Yeah.
life.
And everybody's different. So I feel like figuring out what works for you is also very important. You can't just sit here and listen to me saying, do this, this, and that, because it might not work for you.
Correct.
Just because it works for me. So you
Correct.
need to be your own guinea pig and really start testing,
Yeah.
what makes you feel good. Well, you need to feel good in order to be able to perform better in every aspect of your life.
People don't understand that joy is not just a mental state. It's also a physical state.
Yeah.
You can work out, meditate, eat yourself into a state of joy where you become better cognitively, you become sharper, you become more inspired, and you're able to accomplish more through taking care of those first prerequisites in order to make yourself happy.
Yeah.
You can't be happy if you're eating crappy food, not exercising, and constantly being stimulated and programmed by other people and other things.
Yeah.
That's the way not to be happy. The only way to be happy is to take radical responsibility and focus on your health, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And
Yeah.
that's really the paradigm shift that we need to make.
Yeah.
They should be teaching this in schools.
They should.
And ironically, my wife is working for a family who's opening mindful schools. It's called the Centener Academy. And it's all focused on eating right, meditation, exercise, learning multiple languages. Yeah, it's a really beautiful concept. So if there's anybody out there that wants to get their kids into the next level paradigm shifting school, it's called the Centener Academy. And I think with more people like you, more people like me, more people like them, and more people like you guys watching this podcast, little by little, we're going to be able to make these small shifts until you get to that point where you can't stop it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that more people are waking up to the dangers.
A lot more people are waking up to it.
Yeah.
And even surrounding yourself with people that are waking up and that are providing good things for you too. Because if you are constantly just hanging out with people that are stuck on that, when the normal, I call them normal people, just eating crap and just having negative thoughts and watching the news and whatever it is, just running the program, then you're just going to be drawn to it too.
Yeah. What do they say? You're like the average of the five people you spend the most time with. Yeah. So you got to start hanging out with healthier people. How do you do that? Yeah. You join a gym. Yeah. Right? How do you learn more about becoming a better version of yourself? Go find people that are becoming better versions of themselves and hang out with them.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody told me the other day, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Ooh, that's good.
Right?
Yeah, I like that. I'm glad I'm not the smartest person in this room. Hey! Well, Carla, I think this has been an amazing podcast, and I would love to have you back when I get better at this. And
this is great.
We can talk more about your business. If you guys want to find Carla, she's at Raw Chef Carla on Instagram. Yes. If you need meals cooked, she'll cook them for you. Yes. If you need to learn how to cook, she'll teach you how to cook. So make sure you're not wasting your time buying food and then going out to eat. Also, check your bank statement. If it's how much is a meal basically on average? Like if you were
$15.
$15. So if you buy 2 meals a day, that's $30 a day.
All organic.
All organic. Now that's a big difference. No, that's huge, because organic food is more expensive for a lot of reasons, but it's going to pay dividends down the road. Yeah. So if you just spend $150 a week investing on yourself, buying meals from Carla, you're going to reap those rewards many times over in other areas of your life. So guys, invest in yourself. Make sure you invest in Carla, because more people like Carla in the world, and that's how we're going to make a change out there. So thank you all for hanging out. If you listen this long, like, subscribe, follow the channel. Also like and subscribe Carla stuff. Carla, thank you again very much.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Of course, my pleasure.